Hi, hello, and welcome to another lesson in this free web development bootcamp. It's such a joy to have you all here, and thank you so much for continuing to join in. I'm very excited about today's lesson, but before we do that, just a little bit of housekeeping. Hello, love to see you all saying hello in the chat. It's great to see you all. Yeah, if you're joining in for the first time, hi, my name's Ramon. Jess and I are running a couple of free boot camps. This one that you're tuning into now is a web development boot camp. Let me give you all some info about it. Let me tell you all what to expect. Let me tell you all where we're at. So, pardon me. Sorry. So, um, this will be running until Wednesday, February 7th. And after that, we'll be starting a free JavaScript bootcamp. Now, if you're joining in for the first time and you're like, oh my goodness, I'd love to join, but am I too late? We are in the third week of this bootcamp, but don't worry. Every video is stored on YouTube. So if you go to youtube.com/at Bad Website Club, you'll find all the info there. All of the recordings there. If you go to this website, good morning, everyone. Love to see people say hi in the chat. This website that you see here is this one here, badwebsite.club/webdev-bootcamp-jan-2024.html. Here, you'll find all of the infos like a calendar for the schedule, the forum, all of the links on where to find us, and a link to the Discord. If you want to join in on the conversation on Discord, you can go to this link here. Hi, hello. Love to see everybody saying hello. Yeah, if you go to Discord, this link here that I've just posted in the chat, then you can join in. You'll need to tick a box in order to get manually verified, and then you're good to go. Please ask questions, ask for feedback, share feedback, answer questions. It's one of the best ways to learn. It's not even a big secret. One of the best ways that I'm learning is by teaching all of you. You reinforce a lot of knowledge doing this. Cool. One more thing is, of course, by joining this bootcamp, you are agreeing to abide by our code of conduct. Go to bit.ly/bwc-coc. If you see anything out of sorts, please let myself or Jess know, and we'll sort it out. PTEC's asking, are all the curriculums covered after the JavaScript one? So currently, we're just doing the JavaScript one after this. If there is space/a desire, maybe we can do more. Let's find out. No promises made. We are going to take a big rest after the JavaScript bootcamp because this is like a lot of learning and a lot of teaching as well. But okay, that's enough of me blabbling on and on. Let's talk about what we'll be covering today. So today, well, yesterday we did pseudo selectors in CSS by building a table. We covered a lot about tables and pseudo selectors, and the homework was to go through those. But don't worry if you haven't done all of it. There is going to be time to catch up. And remember, none of this is with a timeline. None of this has a deadline. You can take your time and catch up at your own pace. In fact, that's the preferred way to go about it. And all of this is recorded. Today, we're going to be doing painting with CSS. I'm so excited about this. And you might have noticed already with some of the stuff that CSS lets us do, like positioning, border radiuses, or I think the plural is radii. Yep, cats. It's going to be very exciting. With all of these tools at our disposal, we can actually do some, and folks have done some pretty incredible stuff with CSS. I'm not going to show you any examples yet. First, I want to focus on what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be using some pretty big tools here. First, I'll send you all the link to the lesson so you can follow along if you like. I can also just like hang out and chat and ask questions. Please ask lots of questions. So we're going to be learning about absolute positioning, the Z index. We saw a little bit of the Z index already, and the transform property, which I'm pretty sure is going to be new. So here's what we're going to do. First, I'm going to just hop over to MDN and show you these in action. And then during the lesson, we'll get a better sense of how these work. So first, we'll look at absolute positioning. And we've been playing a little bit with positioning already. So I'm going to start with that. Paste that into here. Yeah. So positioning. PTEC says we've done a bit of it all. Should be good. Absolutely. Just want to review a little bit of how positioning works. So with position static, and we're going to be paying attention to this yellow square here. Static means it stays there. Relative means that we can assign a position to move it relative to where it should be. There's position absolute that positions this square at an absolute position from the top left, yeah, of the viewport. So here it's like, cool, move it 40 pixels down and 40 pixels to the right. Now you might be wondering, wait, top and left? Yeah, it's 40 pixels from the top and 40 pixels from the left. We're going to be doing a lot of position absolute today. Sticky is kind of neat. It's going to be like, cool, position it where it is. But once it comes out of the viewport, well, then it's going to be stuck at 20 pixels from the top. Yeah, but today, absolute. Let's look at Z index next, and I'm quite excited about this one. Essentially, when you've got absolute positioned elements in HTML, what you're going to have is assigned a Z index to them. And the rule of thumb is pretty straightforward, I hope. And that is the higher the Z index, the further in the front it is. Think of your elements of an HTML kind of like a stack of pancakes, right? The higher the number, the higher up the pancake is. I've never had a stack of pancakes, but that's what I imagine in my head. So with this example here, we can see this element that says change my Z index. If I make it higher, check it out. It's going to start rising. Whoop. The bigger the number, the further in front it is. And finally, we've got, whoop. Stephen asks, did you just state that the properties of top, bottom, left, and right always refer to the viewport? No, I'm sorry. I might have been unclear. Let me go back to position real quick. When we're talking about relative, for example, I'm talking from 40 pixels from the top and 40 pixels from the left of where it would normally be in position relative. In position absolute, yes, top left of the document. So not the viewport, my bad. The document. Sorry. If it were the viewport, probably we're talking about sticky here. In sticky, it's 20 pixels from the top of the viewport. That's where I got mixed up in my language. Thank you for catching me out. Oh, Jess makes it sound so much better than me. I like to think of the Z index like a stack of books on my desk. The more important books have bigger numbers and they're on top or closer to the top. That's really good. All right, now let's talk about CSS transform and then we can start doing some painting. I'm very excited about this. So the transform property lets us manipulate our CSS stuff. And I'll show you what I mean. Can I comment this out? Yeah, what if I delete here? So here we've got a logo of the Firefox. Here we got an image of the Firefox logo. Here's how it's displayed normally. If I apply a transform of rotate with this 0.5 turn, it's going to rotate it halfway around. But there's lots of different functions we can apply. For example, scaling. With this, we can make it twice as wide and half as tall. We can move it with translate. We can do some pretty gnarly matrix stuff here. I don't even know what's going on here. But essentially, what I want to show you here is that transform lets us manipulate how an element is displayed. And we can apply lots of transform functions. And don't worry, we're going to see this more in detail. I just wanted to give you a feel for how it would look. So now let's do some painting. First, I'm going to show you what it's going to look like. And I warn you, it's really cute. Oh my God, I forgot how cute it is. So we're going to be painting this using CSS and some HTML, of course. But I'm going to be evil. I'm going to be skipping some steps because a lot of this we've already done. We've done doc type, HTML, yeah, we've done all of this. I've actually skipped ahead to step 6. So check it out. We've got all of our boilerplate. We've linked to our style sheet. We have a body. But looks like we've got some CSS as well. Let's look at that real quick. So we've applied border box sizing to all of our elements, And we've applied a really nice, it's very close to violet, so you all know I really like it. It's a really nice violet color, violet-ish color, as the background of our body. So now let's do some coding. So we're going to create a main element inside of which we've got a div with the class cat head. Oh, sounds a little bit brutal. So div with a class set to cat head. And remember, we're just declaring some rectangles. So we don't see anything yet because we don't have any content. But cool. Main with a div inside it with the class of cat head. Let's keep going. Everything's looking great so far. All right, now we're going to start painting. Oh, this is so exciting. So we're going to target our cat head, give it a width of 205 pixels, a height of 180 pixels. Don't see anything just yet. However, once we give it a border of 1 pixel, so it's 1 pixel wide, this border, it's going to be a solid border. Oh, look at that. Now we've got a border, and we're going to make this border 3 zeros. Remember that 3 zeros is the same as 6 zeros. This is a shorthand. And because there's no red, no green, and no blue, it's a black border. And finally, a border radius of 46%. Cool. So it's not all the way round. It's kind of oval shaped. And we're off to a wonderful start. We've already started painting. I'm so excited. I can't draw very well. So being able to make art with code is just so exciting to me. Cool. So in order to see it, I mean, we can already see it, but we're going to see the background. We're going to give it a linear gradient background with this color at 85% and 45, 45, 40F at 100%. You may not notice a difference between those two colors, but it is there. Okay. Do you know what, friends? I cannot for the life of me remember how to do a linear gradient, but that's okay because I've got documentation. I'm going to look up how to do a linear gradient. Look at that. I've got my syntax right here. So this is going to be background set to linear gradient. It's a function that takes two or more arguments. The color and the starting color and the ending color. Thank you for the link, Jess. How do I do that percentage stuff? Aha. How do you do those stopping points? There we go. A gradient going from bottom to top, starting blue, turning green at 40% of its length, and finishing red. We also need that direction. Very important. So, whoops, wrong window. I'm going to close that. Here we go. Give it a linear gradient. So it doesn't seem like it's mentioning a direction, which is fine. So the background is going to be linear gradient. If I could spell correctly, there we go. Starting at 5E, 5E, 5E at 85%. Percent, please. There you go. Don't see anything just yet because we don't have our second color. So 45, 45, 40F at 100%. There we go. Semicolon at the end. And I see what they're saying. Like you can tell here at the bottom, there's like a little bit of a change of color. If you can't see it, it's probably the stream quality, but trust me, it's there. Very exciting. Does it look good? Yeah, we did it. Let's keep going. Cool. So if you're seeing this pop up, just to let you know, free code camp is offered for free. We offer this bootcamp for free. Free code camp does depend on donations from folks. If you can't afford it, don't worry. You can come back to it. Only donate if you can, a couple bucks. I'm going to do this later. Ask me later. There we go. Let's keep going. Oh, awesome. So we're going to be doing some positioning. We've covered in MDN how to do positioning, and we can move an element from its position using the top, right, left, or bottom properties. So by default, all elements have a static position. If we assign it, then we won't be able to move it around with top, right, left, or bottom. Let's give it a try. Oh, actually, we're doing that here. So position static, which remember is the default. We're just trying it out here. We'll set top to be 100 pixels, which we would expect to move it down by 100 pixels. And left is going to be 100 pixels. And we don't see a change. But I expect that this is what we want. So when they're static, we can't move them. Good to know. But that's not the case with relative. So when we use relative, if you remember from NDN, that's going to move it relative to where it would be if it were static. So if we change this to relative now it's 100 pixels down and 100 pixels from the left of where it should be. If we make it negative, by the way, this is super fun. Look, now it's 100 pixels up from where it should be. What if we did bottom? So 100 pixels from the bottom of where it should be. You might notice that this is the same as a negative top position, which makes sense. So if you move it to be 100 pixels from the bottom, you're also moving it to be negative 100 pixels from the top. For now, I'm not going to be confusing. We'll move it to be 100 pixels down, 100 pixels to the right. Cool. And it works. Ah, amazing. Let's keep going. So when we use absolute as our position, excuse me for one sec. Excuse me. So if we use the absolute position, then it's going to be positioned from the top left of our document. Let's see how that looks different from relative. There was only a minor difference. Did you notice it? Let me change it back to relative. Now, why do you think it moved ever so slightly? I'd love to hear it in the chat. And I'll give you a hint. Look at how it is when it's static. But that's enough clues for today. Ghosts. That's a good guess. But I'd love to hear, why do we think that it would move if it's relative or absolute? In the meantime, we're doing great. Let's keep moving along. So if we use the fixed position, then the element is going to be fixed on the page no matter where the user scrolls, kind of like sticky. So in order to do that, we're going to create a div here with a class set to box. Now we don't see it yet. Ooh. So Steven says it's pushing off something from an ancestor, but which one? Well, we can see here. It's pushing off from the main. And the main is relative to the body. Maybe default values of margin or padding. That's a great point. And I'll tell you how I'm going to find out. I'm going to use one of my favorite tools in programming, background color. Wait, why can't we see the head of the cat? Where'd my cat go? Oh, there it is. Oh, it's 300 pixels off from the top and through 400 to the right. Cool. Let me give you a hint. Let me make this relative static again. Okay. Let's do for the main element, let's give it a background color of white. Check it out. The main is not at the top left. And the reason for this is because body by default does have some margin. If we remove that margin, this is called margin reset. And by default, most browsers will put that a little bit of a margin. So that's why relative and absolute look a little different by default. Oh, I love what Jess is saying here. I think of fixing something with duct tape. If it's fixed, it's going to be stuck on the same place. Sorry, I went off topic there. What we wanted to do here is have our box. Does it work? Yes, it looks good. All right, so we're going to give our box element a width of 200 pixels, a height of 600 pixels. Oh, we're going to see it in just a moment. A background color of 000, so black. There it is. Now, this is interesting. The box is below the cat head. That's because the position of the cat is relative to its parent. If it were absolute, check out what's going to happen. The box moves up. So the difference, and it's in the wording of absolute. In absolute positioning, the cat head is removed and plopped somewhere. Whereas with relative positioning, it still takes up that space, but we move it. It's an important distinction. But I forgot to give it a position absolute. So now the box is going to be positioned absolute. And the top is going to be at 800 pixels. And the left is going to be at 650 pixels. I love what Jess says here. If you find that CSS is making your code do unexpected things, that's okay. Even super experienced developers sometimes get unexpected things happen. And she is 100% right. It happens to me all the time. So because we moved it 800 and 600 to the bottom and to the right, look at where it's come over. It's all the way over here. Let's check our code. Looks good. Let's keep going. So, Stephen B. Relative is like positioning an element relative to its ghost image, which is still taking up space in the document flow. That's amazing. That's better than I could have ever said it. Yeah. So it leaves behind like a ghost of space. I like that. It's really good. So now we're going to move our cat head to be fixed. It moved a little bit, and we remember we remember why, because that body still has a bit of a margin. However, now that it's fixed, look at what happens when I scroll. Look, we're going to see the box in just a minute. Ah, there it is. Ooh, cool. Now, the cat head is now fixed to this position of the viewport. Let's keep going. And now we're going to try sticky. So, how is this different from fixed? It kind of gets fixed based on the scroll position. And you'll see what I mean when I try it out. So, we're going to set the position to sticky instead of fixed. Now look what happens when I scroll. Wait, what? That's weird, right? Then we're going to set the top to 0. Now let's see what happens when I scroll. Okay. And finally, we're going to remove left and its value. Cool, now it's at the left. But I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I was promised that sticky would make it stick. The reason it's not, we will have to place a couple text before and after our div element. If you scroll up after that, you'll see that the cat head gets stuck to the top and remains there. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I don't know why, but it probably has to do with CSS margin reset, vertical margin collapse, as we've seen in other lessons. I'm going to put like test text before, and let's put one after. Now let's see what happens. Ooh. So it does get kind of stuck, but not really. So the important bit here is the specific position within its containing element or viewport based on the scroll position. But it does get stuck there. relative to the text below and above. Does that look good? It does. Let's keep going. Okay, cool. So now we're going to center the cat head. So center the cat head sounds so kind of unusual. So we're going to put it position absolute, and we're going to set a value of top, right, left, and bottom all to 0. So top 0, bottom 0, right 0, and left 0. And now I'm really excited about this. If we may set the margin to auto, now it's centered. This is because with the position absolute and we don't have vertical margin collapse, now it'll stay in the center. But why isn't it centered always? That's because it's absolute, not fixed. If it were fixed, then it would stay fixed where I scroll. But we want it absolute. Cool. Amazing. Let's keep going. Oh, we're going to remove our box because we don't need it anymore. I bet we're going to lose our scrolling. Yep, scrolling's gone. That's why we went with absolute instead of fixed. Amazing. Let's keep going. Ah, cool. One of the biggest joys in programming is deleting code. Believe me, I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it's like, less code to worry about and debug. It feels really good. So that's gone. Okay. So next we're going to do cat ears. So we're going to have one div with a class set to cat ears. And we're going to draw these with CSS. It's going to be so good. Don't see anything yet, of course, because we don't have any content in there, which is fine. Let's check our code. Looks good. Let's keep going. Next, we're going to create two elements inside that cat ears rectangle called cat left ear. And, I might copy paste. This one's called cat right ear. So we got two new divs inside this cat ears, cat left ear, cat right ear. We don't see anything yet, no content. So we'll keep going. Stephen P is asking, is it centered in main or body in the viewport? Or the viewport? The MDN documentation is saying determining the containing block is pretty complicated. Great question. I'm going to debug that, and I wouldn't get any suggestions about a good detailed walkthrough for figuring out these specifics. I don't know a good one off the top of my head, but maybe we can look something up. I will be fully honest with you, Stephen B. I have never had to spend too much time worrying about these specifics. Now you're probably thinking like, are you just waving it away? No, absolutely not. I'm just saying like whenever I've needed to figure something out, I either experiment, go find somebody who knows more than I do, or as Jess will very wisely say, let's get weird. Let me spend some time. There it is. So if I set that background color of the main element to red, right? We don't see the main because it doesn't have content. Remember, the cat head is positioned as absolute. So in my opinion, let's give the body. The body has a background color, and we can see that the cat head is positioned in the center of that body. I hope that's helpful. I know it's a bit annoying to be like, yeah, but I don't fully understand it. And like, unfortunately, it's going to sometimes just be that way where you're just like going to be bumping your head against it and then eventually it'll click. Inner ear. Okay. So for this step, I'm making a cat left inner ear div inside my cat left ear. And inner ear is, of course, that cute little pink part in the cat's ear. Did I make it right? Yeah. Amazing. Let's keep going. Cool. Next, we're going to do a cat right inner ear inside our cat right ear. Cool. That looks good. If it were me, I would probably make these classes a little shorter. That's okay. So we're going to make each ear. Oh, we're going to start working on ears. Amazing. So using the class selector, give the cat left ear element a left and right border. Okay, border left, set to 35 pixels, solid, transparent. Transparent. Okay. Border right, set to be 35 pixels, solid, transparent. Then we're going to set the border bottom to be 70 pixels, solid. And here we have a color, E5E, 5E. Look. I don't know if you saw, but we got some border. Now, you might be wondering, why would I want these ones if they're going to be transparent? I'll tell you what, let's remove them and see what happens. So, you know what might help me here? What if I make the position relative and I set the top to be 1. Oh, actually, no. You know what? I'm not going to move it. I'm just going to change the color so it's different from the cat's head. Let me make it red. Red's my favorite color for this sort of thing. So, the bottom border of this element is 70 pixels wide, it's solid, and it's red. Notice what happens when I add a border left and a border right that are transparent. So the way that borders are drawn, and in fact, we can make this blue so it's a little bit more visible. So because we don't have a border top, these are cut off in a triangle form, sort of. So by making these transparent, we're telling it, hey, do you have a border there? And that way it kind of gets a triangular shape. 5E, 5E, 5E. Yeah, so that's how we get our ears. Code looks good, right? Whew. That's kind of like, it might seem like I'm hacking or like doing something like not properly, but this is art. We can get weird. So now we're going to move the left ear into position by setting the position to absolute. And we'll set the top to be negative 26 pixels and the left to be negative 31 pixels. So now that the position is absolute, it is no longer, let me make the background red again. Let me make the color here red again so you can see. Oh, right, sorry. Now it's a triangle shape like this. You might be wondering, hold on, why isn't it taking up the whole width anymore? Because the position is absolute, we have removed it from that hierarchy. Notice the difference when I make it relative. So relative to its parent, which is the head has this width. So it's like, cool, big chunky thing. When I make it absolute, it's like, okay, I guess I'll be as wide as you need me to be. So about 70 pixels. So last thing we need to do is restore that color. There we go. So there's our ear floating off to the left. Doesn't quite look like an ear yet, but I bet we're going to make it happen. Ooh. So next we're going to make the edges a little less sharp. So we can set a property called border top left radius. This allows us to only set the border radius for the top left. I'm going to set that to be 90 pixels. Now notice what happened. It's a little bit smoother up here. Now we're going to do the same with border top right radius. There we go. Set that to be 10 pixels. Now it's got a little bit of like a little smoother edge going on here. I love what y'all are saying in the chat. I'm gonna bookmark these to cover them during the Q&A. Cool. So now we've got a little bit more of an ear shape, but it's still not like still floating. So now we're going to use the transform property. If you remember, that lets us do things like rotate, scale, move with translate, or matrix. So we're going to use the transform property. Now remember, the transform as a value takes a function like rotate, and that function takes a parameter which is an angle, like how much it should turn. Excuse me. So we're going to rotate that by negative 45 degrees. See what happens. Now the ear is like perfectly slotted. But why negative 45? If it were positive 45, then it would rotate clockwise. If it's 90 degrees, then it's going to be pointing 90 degrees, and it's going to be pointing off to the right. 180 means it's going to be flipped over. And 270 is interesting because now it's pointed off over there. Now it's pointed off to the left. But yeah, we can set negative angles as well. So negative 45 lets us rotate it 45 degrees anti-clockwise. Does that look good? Yeah. Amazing. Let's keep going. And now we can do the same for the right ear of the cat. Now, a lot of this is going to be super familiar. So I'm going to go a little bit faster here. We're going to set our cat ear with the border left set to be 35 pixels, solid, transparent. And I'm going to copy paste that because I'm lazy, because the border right is going to be the same. And the border bottom is going to be 70 pixels, solid, 5E, 5E, 5E. There it is. We still need to set it to be absolute, so we'll do that next. Gonna make that position absolute. Top of negative 26. Stephen B., I hear you will investigate more during the Q&A. 163 pixels. Now it's off. So moved our cat ear over to the right, a little bit up and a little bit to the right. Amazing. Let's keep going. Now we need to rotate the right ear 45 degrees. So we use the transform property. The value is rotate, which takes a parameter or an argument of 45 degrees. Notice I said 45 instead of, Notice I said 45 instead of negative 45, because we want to turn this ear clockwise as opposed to anti-clockwise. Cool. Looks good. I bet next we're going to do the little chip on the ear thingy. So border, top left radius, 90 pixels. Border, top right radius. Wish I could spell. There we go. 10 pixels. There we go. I love that shape. It's so cute. Amazing. We did it. So now our ear should be placed above the part of the head that it overlaps. Now we're going to be using the z-index property. So remember, the higher the value of the z-index, the further in front it is. As Jess really well put it, the book is going to be the higher the number, the more important the book. And that's going to be the one I read first. So let's set the z-index to be -1. Remember, the higher the number, the further in the front. So if it's a lower number, it's going to be behind the head. I love this. Now we're going to do the same one. Oh, hold on. That's not what we want. I kind of like it like this. We should make the ears display over the head so the borders don't overlap with them. That overlap with them don't show. So instead of -1, we're going to set the z index to be 1. Cool. So we're now explicitly saying, hey, you should always be on top of the head. By default, elements that are inside other elements will have an automatically assigned higher z index. Kira says, I got stuck on the sticky position, not really doing what it should. Let's play around with that during the Q&A. I think it's more important to stick with position absolute. I haven't used sticky all that much, frankly, is my suggestion. Is there any CSS mirror-like property that we can offset the shape according to a reference line or point? I Can you give me an example? I'm not quite sure I understand the question. I'm sorry. I'm still going to bookmark that for a Q&A. So, cool. We have now put the right ear on top of the head. Cool. So most cats have different colors in their ear and inner part of the same ear. So we're going to implement the same too. And that's why we've defined these divs for both the right and the left inner ears. Mr. Grubworm, I love your question. I'm going to come back to it. So, cat, left inner ear. We'll have a left and right border of, we're going to make a triangle again. Cool. Border left is going to be 20 pixels solid transparent. Then border right is going to be 20 pixels solid transparent. Notice what's happening here. What is happening? And the border bottom is 40 pixels solid 3B, 3B, 4F. Cool. It doesn't quite look like it's in the right place yet, but I bet we're gonna make it. We're gonna move it and make it work. Oh, Mitch makes a great point I want to point out here. An element has to have an assigned position other than static to be able to apply a Z index. Thank you very much. PTX says it's starting to click. Trust me, and it's going to click again and again and again. So now we're going to move it with position absolute. Cool. The top is going to be 22 pixels. And the left is going to be -20 pixels. Not bad, huh? Now here's a question. I don't know if you noticed, but the bigger I make this top, notice how it's moving. It's not moving up or down. It's kind of moving diagonally. Does anybody know why? Make it 200. Notice it's moving down. That's kind of weird, isn't it? Also, it feels like half this triangle is missing. I bet we're going to find out why in just a minute. Oh, I forgot a semicolon. How embarrassing. Ah, oh, that's why. My bad. Oh, I love what Jess is saying here. It is totally okay if this isn't clicking just yet for some of you. A lot of this doesn't make sense until you use it again and again and again. And some stuff will just sort of stubbornly refuse to click long term, and that's still okay. Having some things you only sort of understand is very, very regular, and I agree 100%. Oh, Derek's got the answer. It's because I rotated the parent div, right? So because I rotated the parent div, when I'm moving stuff left and right, it's still left and right relative to that parent div. So I'm moving diagonally now. Let's keep going. Cool. We're going to remove the pointed edges again. So bottom, border bottom is going to be, border bottom radius. Is that how you do it? Is it a bottom right and bottom? Oh, no. Border bottom right radius. I hope this is correct. To be 40%. Percent, please. Thank you. Yes. Then there's border bottom left radius to be also 40%, not $40. Cool. And the top left border radius to be 90 pixels. And the top right border radius of 10 pixels. I think you just stumbled upon something I found confusing about position for a long time, saying it's moving down because it's relative to its parent div. But we're using absolute positioning, but it's kind of absolute and relative at the same time. I know that this is confusing. I promise I'm going to clarify this, and we're going to clarify this together in a bit. Mr. Grubman says, so absolute is set from the immediate parent and not from the root element. It's removed from the root element, but it's positioned along those lines. Eric says, you forgot a semicolon. Sometimes I'm staring at my screen for half an hour and I don't see that error. And then I saw that I forgot a bigger than somewhere. That's life of a developer. Absolutely. You should have sort of learned to recognize these little wait, could I have forgotten a semicolon? But it happens to all of us. Cool. So there's my little rounded cat here. Top. Oh my goodness. Look at me spelling this completely wrong. So it's border top left radius and border top right radius. Now it's nicely rounded. Phew! But you can see we can have really tight control over these border radiuses or radii. So we're going to do the same for our right inner ear. Cat, right inner ear. I'm just going to go as far as I can, and then we'll really start to look into the solids of what is up with position absolute and relative. So, okay, cool. We'll do the bottom and border left. It's going to be 20 pixels, solid, transparent. I'm going to do border right, 20 pixels, solid, transparent. And border bottom of 40 pixels, solid. And then the color 3B, 3B, 4F. Well, that looks kind of weird, but I bet we're going to fix it. And that's because we're going to use position absolute. Now the right ear is whew, I don't have such big content in me anymore. I can go back to where I was. And the top is going to be 22 pixels. And the left is going to be negative 20 pixels. Great. Last thing to do is going to be those top left, top right, bottom left, and bottom right radiuses or radii. I'm going to go with radiuses. I could be wrong. So border, bottom, right, radius is 40%. Border, bottom, left radius is 40%. Thank you. Top, no, border. Top left radius is 90 pixels. And border top right radius is 10 pixels. My goodness. It's really powerful how much we can control these radiuses. Now we're going to do eyes. So, and like the ears, the cats will also have inner eyes. I'm sure it'll look cool. So we're back in HTML. We're going to make a div called with the class cat eyes. Sorry, div. And then inside there, we'll do div class cat left eye and div class cat right eye. There we go. Left and right eye. We still need those inner eyes, I'll bet. Yeah. So inside our cat left eye element, we're going to create another div element with the class cat left inner eye. Yeah, called it. Div class cat left inner eye. Cool. And I bet we're going to do the same. I might copy paste it because I'm lazy. Yeah. There's the cat right inner eye. Amazing. Keep those questions coming, folks, because we're going to end in just a bit. I'll give you all some homework, and then we'll really dive into this. So, cat left eye. Back in our CSS, we're going to give our left eye a width of 30 pixels, a height of 40 pixels. We don't see it just yet. Remember, we need that background. There it is. Background color of 000. Now, hold on just a minute. Y'all can see it, right? It's kind of like hiding behind here. Remember, our cat left eye is inside our cat. Well, let me just go back to our HTML real quick. So our cat left eye, where's the eyes? Cat left eye is inside cat eyes, which is below cat ears and inside cat head. So the reason that the left eye is at the top left is because, remember, our ears have an absolute position. So because they're not taking up space anymore, the eyes are like, okay, cool, I'll start at the top left then. You want to see something cursed? Let me show you all what happens if I make the ears relative. I have no idea how this is going to explode. Let's find out. Okay. Wait, that's the inner ears. Absolute. Hold on. Left ear relative. Okay. And the right ear is also going to be relative. Notice a couple things. First of all, now that it's positioned inside the head, the ears are now taking up its block of space, so it's like full width. That's why the border is super long now. Also, because they have a border, that means they also have a size. So they're pushing the eye down. I'm going to take these back to be absolute because this is a little scary looking. Cool. Let's check our code. Whew. I think I'll do one or two more and then we'll go into Q&A. Now, we're going to make the position of our eye absolute. Then, we're going to move it down by 54 pixels and to the left by 39 pixels. Very cute. Let's keep going. Now we're going to give the eye a border radius of 60%. Not pixels, percent. Now it's got to look like a cute little oval. Then, using the transform property, we're going to rotate the eye by 25 degrees. Oh. Oh, now I want to give it both eyes. I don't want to stop at just one eye. Cool. We'll do the same thing. So cat, right eye. I want to hear a guess. Once I give it a height and a width, where's the right eye going to show up? Please say so in the chat. 30. We got your question. Bookmark, Kira. We'll come back to it. So width of 30 pixels, a height of 40 pixels, and a background color of 3 zeros. And there's your answer. It showed up at the top left. And we know why, because everything else is positioned absolute. So it's like, okay, cool. I'm just going to be at the top left then. Not this looks a little cursed. So I'm going to keep going. So same thing for the right eye. We're going to make its position absolute with a top of 54 pixels and a left of 134 pixels. Now we've moved it into position. Looks good. Oh, I don't want to stop. Border radius of 60%. And we're going to rotate it by, I already did this wrong, transform of rotate by negative 25 degrees. That way it's going to tilt the other way. Oh. No, I need to stop. I'm sorry, folks. I don't want to take away all the fun. So we're going to stop here for today at step 49. Let's look at homework. So I'm going to open up here. Oh, I'm so mean. Look at how much homework I'm leaving you. So homework is to finish off the cat painting. It's going to look super cute. Please, please, please send me a picture of it in Discord. If you want of your cat head, maybe you want to customize it a little bit, make it a different color, maybe give it spots. I don't know. Y'all tell me. If you want to post it on Discord, I would love to see it. So, okay. It's a lot of homework today. We're covering so much, folks. So don't worry if you fall a little bit behind. Remember, this is self-paced. So, once again, step 49 until 82. Tomorrow, we're going to come back. Oh, I'm so excited. We're going to build a piano. I love this. I like a lot. Like you might be thinking, like, why are we doing art? Like, how is that like relevant to what I'm learning? Trust me, folks. It's a really good way to understand how specific stuff in CSS works. It's really handy. So, rest of the cat painting, lots of rest. If you want to join in the conversation on Discord, remember the link is in the chat. I'll post it one more time. Bad. Hold up. So tomorrow we'll be back at the same time to do that. And now we will do some Q&A. So keep those questions coming. I appreciate y'all being so patient with me as I talked I talked so much today about like, oh yeah, position absolute and position this and position that. And it's pretty confusing. So first of all, I want to highlight something really helpful that Mitch wrote here. A stickily positioned element is treated as relatively positioned until it crosses a specified threshold, at which point it is treated as fixed until it reaches the boundary of its parent. Let's look again. Let's go to position, and playing around with this is really helping me understand it better. So here we have some HTML, some text before, some text after. If it's static, it moves like this. This would actually be more helpful if we had the HTML as well. How can I look at that? Do you know what, friends? I think I think I'm just going to take this and put it on CodePen or something. I think that would be pretty helpful. Then we can really get weird with it. Do y'all mind if we spend some time just messing around with like position? Because I feel like it was a lot. Let's open up CodePen. Start coding. I'm just gonna real quick type in. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna copy the text from here. So, if you all remember CodePen from yesterday, we got some HTML here and some CSS here. Then we need div class. I'm just gonna make these square. Close the div. I make 3 squares. We might need a flex box here. I get the feeling that, or maybe these will be inline. We'll figure it out. Everything's fine. Put these inside a div to be safe. We got a div made up of 3 divs. This square is going to be moving, the moving square. And then I'm going to take the same text because I'm lazy, going to plop it down here. So first thing we need to do is give some styles to our square. Let's make it border, please. Thank you. 2 pixels red. Forgot the solid. We don't see anything yet because, oh, never mind. We do see something. Let's give them a height of 100 pixels. And we'll give them a width of 100 pixels. Let's call this row. Okay. Now our moving square. Oh, let's give it a background color too. Background color of blue. Doesn't have to be anything special. I didn't close the container. I didn't close the containing div, Sean. Thank you. That almost could have ended in disaster. Thank you, Mr. Grubworm. Y'all are so good to me. You're so patient with me. So our moving square is going to have a height. Background color of red. And the border. Thank you, Eric S. Y'all are so good to me. Okay. There we go. Now we've got 3 squares on top of each other, which is, of course, not quite what we want. Can I take my row and make this a display inline? Does that work? I always forget. Nope. Never mind. It is the squares that should be displayed inline. Block. Inline block. Oh, no. Yes. Oh, I was scared that I didn't know how to do it. We don't need that row. Cool. So the 3 squares are in display block. Yeah. Now, do you know what? I think I want to add more text here. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take some lorem ipsum. I don't think we've seen it just yet, but it comes from Cicero, if I remember correctly. It kind of looks like Latin, but isn't really. And it looks like this. It's text to have on our webpage, just to have some text to see how it'll look. So it's like it's kind of random, but not really. Generator. So cool. I'm going to grab this first lorem ipsum generator. Jess, thank you for correcting me. It's a specific Cicero translation. Let's make it. Is this generating? Cool. We've got a bunch of text here. So let's go back to my CodePen. It's not even a good translation. Which is good and all, but we still need to wrap. Actually, let's wrap those in P elements because we're good. We're good web developers here. Closing P. Actually, I think 1 will be enough. No, you know what? I'm not going to be lazy. And closing P. So let's really get to the bottom of this. Oh my goodness. P. Why did I do this with 5 paragraphs? P. Closing P. Closing P. Thank you. Cool. Now we can scroll. That's going to help us. Now, position. Let's start with relative. If I make the position relative, it doesn't move. Remember, top, we can change now. 10 pixels. Now it's moved 10 pixels down and 10 pixels to the right. When it's static, it stays where it is. And this is the default value for position. It stays where it is. It doesn't move when we have a top and left. Relative. When it's absolute, it moves 10 pixels down and 10 pixels to the right relative to, and this is where a lot of confusion came in, its container, or let's go to MDN and read it here. For the normal document flow and no space is created for the element in the page layout. We saw that now those two squares around it are now together. If I make it relative, let's look at it again. Even though it's moved, let's move it like, say, 100 pixels. That ghost is still there. When I make it absolute, the ghost is gone. See that again? Relative. Absolute. The confusion comes to absolute relative to what? The element is positioned relative to its closest position ancestor, if any, or to the initial containing block. And I wonder if the positioned ancestor is the one that's tripping us up. So I'll tell you what, friends. What if, because right now it seems to be relative to the top, which is the body. How did they call it again? The initial containing block. So what if I take my row and instead of making it position static, we make it position relative? Look, the square moved. That's because the row is now positioned. Let me clean up my HTML here a little bit. The row is now positioned. Let's play with the row now. What if I make it absolute? Now the row is not taking up space. If I make it relative, it still has its little ghost. Right? Now y'all might be wondering, like, wait, what? Check it out. Let's make this a smaller jump. Let's say 10 pixels. Look. The moving square is now positioned absolute relative to its nearest positioned ancestor. When row is static, then there's like, well, there's no nearest positioned ancestor, as Eric very well puts it. It's the initial containing block, which is the body. But when we give the row a position, for example, relative, this can also be absolute, by the way. It can also be sticky. It can also be fixed. So when it's a position other than static, then the nearest containing ancestor that has a position of the square is a row. So then it's positioned 10 pixels down and to the right relative to the row. So, in summary, as Eric very well put it, position relative moves an element relative to its normal position. Mr. Rubworm says, wouldn't the row be the nearest positioned ancestor? Yeah, that's why. See? Relative to the row. Oh, you know what we're going to do? How silly of me not to do this. Let's use background debugging. So background color is going to be, let's give it a big yellow background. And let's give it some padding. 50 pixels. So that we can see. Okay. Let's go back to static for a minute. Cool. The row is static. When it has a static position, the moving square needs to be positioned absolute to its nearest positioned ancestor. The row, its first ancestor, is not positioned. It's static. So then, well, there's no nearest relative, nearest positioned ancestor, so it's the initial containing block. However, when I make it the position of the row relative, now, as Mr. Grubborn says, the row is the nearest positioned ancestor, so the moving square is positioned 10 pixels from the top and 10 pixels from the left of the row. It's kind of weird. You can see it there. What if I make it absolute, by the way? What if I make this relative, by the way? Now we're here again. Remember, this only applies to absolute. This is pretty bonkers stuff. This is pretty like intense stuff. So don't worry if it doesn't click on the first try. Do what I do. I'll be honest, I wasn't all that sure until I started playing around with this just now. I just spent 10 minutes talking about this. I'm so sorry to keep you all waiting on the other questions. I think a lot of these are going to be the same though. As Mitch says, the element is positioned relative to its closest positioned ancestor, if any, or the initial containing block, as we can see here. I want to highlight what Eric said here. I think you don't have to know everything about CSS. Most complicated things hardly ever need to be. When you don't know something, go to MDN, Google it. Stack Overflow is a great resource to get help. But now we can see here, Stephen's great question. What is that positioned element? It's one that's not static. It's not super clear on MDN, by the way. That was a guess on my end. Not that the writing on .mdn is bad. It's just I didn't quite get it. Kira, we're going to talk about sticky position. Let's do that real quick. So. Let's make our moving square sticky. Back here. Now remember, once we scroll out, it's not doing what we expected. See, notice it moved down just a little bit. So here's a question. Why? Well, let's go look at sticky. And I bet it has to do. Sorry, I got excited. The element is positioned according to the normal flow of the document and then offset relative to its nearest scrolling ancestor and containing block. Does that sound familiar? It better, because if I put a copy of this square out here, you're showing up, right? Look at that. Okay, now it's there. Now watch what happens when I scroll. Now it's positioned sticky to, let's go back to the wording, the nearest scrolling ancestor and containing block. So there's no nearest scrolling ancestor for this. So the nearest block containing block is the body. But what about here? Let me get rid of the square. Come back here. Cool. So what if we make this position static? Not much changes. But let's watch what happens here. Still the same, because the nearest scrolling ancestor is the row. What if we make it absolute? I have no idea, by the way. I'm experimenting. Nearest scrolling ancestor is still this. But what if the row is sticky? Now what? Well, we're still not telling it where to stick to. So let's make this top 10 pixels and left 10 pixels. Now let's see what happens. Scroll. Now it's sticky. It's kind of weird. But as I said, you're probably not going to be using, like, I've rarely used sticky, if I'm honest with you. So come back, like, do what I do. Just like spin up a quick code pen, um, and just get weird, as Jess would say. Stephen B says, does scrolling mean the same as position then? I don't know. I don't think so, Stephen B, because like, check it out. Our row was positioned here. Check it out. Absolute. But it still scrolls. So it's relative to its nearest scrolling one. So when I started scrolling, like, watch the square. Watch the square. Once I'm going to move it a little more. Let's make it 100. Nope, that's the row. That's not what I want to do. And watch what happens when I start scrolling. Huh? Why'd you move? Hold on. Static. Cool. We're here again. Now watch what happens to the moving square once I start scrolling past the row. It moved down. Wow, I did not expect it to do that at all. Oh, hold on. Top and left. Go away. Let's see what happens now. Well, I don't know about the rest of y'all. That's pretty frustrating. Let's move it outside and see what happens. Where'd it go? Oh, it stays where it is, and then it moves relative to its nearest one. So it's going to stay down there. But because I have a theory. What if let's make the row absolute. Stephen B says this is a very validating experience. I'm glad. Oh, if y'all want like people like being silly on and failing at things sometimes, look no further. Y'all, I have no idea why. Oh, hold on a second. I need to make this scroll to the right. I'm silly. I mean, yeah, I need to make this wide. How would I make it wide? Oh, I know. How about... Yeah, Mitch puts it perfectly. I'm not sure you have enough height in the road to show what's going on. That's exactly it. So let's do that. First, let's add... Oh my God, I'm silly. 500 pixels. Look, 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 look. Did you see? Did you see? Weird. But yeah, we need to make it sticky over to the left. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make this. Okay. How would I do this? Let's get rid of the let's get rid of some padding. Let's make it relative. And by relative I mean static. And then I'm gonna put like a bunch of squares. Square, 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 square. One more thing. Oh, they're in line. Dang it. Overflow. No, what's it? Wrap? Oh gosh, how would I make this go off and to the right? How would I do this to go off to the right? Because right now they're display inline. Maybe if I just do inline? No, we want inline block. Sorry. How would I make them go off to the right? Is it wrap? How do I do no wrap? See, I forget things. We don't want wrapping and breaking text. Inline size. Interesting. Let me try this. Inline size. We're just experimenting here, folks. Now what happens? I definitely don't want that. What if I want it to be 5,000 pixels? Yes, there we go. Oh, you know what? I'm silly. I should have put that square a lot further up. Let's put it here. Cool. So now this box is super wide. And if where's my stick? Yeah. So it's going to stick to be, there it is. That's how we make it sticky to the left. So it's going to stick relative to its nearest container, scrolling container. Ugh. Okay, Mr. Grubwim says, you said you really use sticky. Was thinking that is how you'd create a nav bar container on a page that is always in view. How would you achieve it? Mitch says, very cool. Very clearly. Sticky elements that is relative as then as you scroll, treat it as fixed until it reaches the boundary. So for navbar to always be in view, use position fixed. And the good thing about it is that it'll be at the top. PTech says, I'm on step 70. The kitty looks so cute and using all these tips. I'll send in Discord when done. Thank you. I can't wait to see it. Okay, folks, I have gone way over time. I'm so sorry to keep y'all. Did I skip any questions? Let's see. Mr. Garbone says, if the Z index is automatically assigned, can we find the assignment in the dev tools? How do we know what to set the Z index to in relation to other elements? So when you have something, for example, here. Okay. Let's make our moving box have a Z index of -1. We already know, I hope. So now the moving square has a lower Z index than the row. Let's find out why. Can I go look at it? Oh, nice. Cool. Here's our row. If you go over to the computer, we'll do more about the dev tools soon. Don't worry. This computed tab is super helpful for looking at things like the padding, the size, and this is all with the, what's it called? The box sizing stuff. But further down, we have stuff like background color, display, inline size, left, to position static top. Cool. We don't have a computed Z index. Maybe layout will show us. That's grid. We don't care about grid. We don't about event listener, DOM breakpoints, properties. Properties, maybe? Nah, we don't care about this yet. Is there anything about a Z index here? Nope. And I don't think accessibility is relevant here. So let's see what else we got. By default, let's go back to Z index. The box does not establish a new local stacking context. The stack level of the generated box in the current stacking context is 0. This means that when we place the row, its Z index for its content is 0. Yeah? So inside, in order to figure out what we're going to use, we're going to say Z index is, can I do that here? Yeah, of course I can do that here. This lets you manipulate in real time. Super helpful. What if I make it auto? So now it's, remember, resetting to 0. But because it's inside the row, it's on top. See what else we got. Oops. Let's try a bigger number. Z index set to 1. So what's going on here? Let's play a little bit around here. So by default, our Z index, remember, is auto. Nothing changes. If I make it 1, looks the same. Let's take the row now and make the Z index 1. They have the same Z index. If I make it 2, you might think the squares are going to disappear. However, remember what Mitch said earlier. It's only once we're positioned. Sorry, position absolute. Maybe I'm wrong. rid of my, oopsie daisy. Let me get rid of my absolute position. Well, I feel silly now. Oh, hold on. No, that's, oh, hold on. Hold on a second. Relative. And let's make all of you relative. Z index of all the squares 1. I am feeling mighty silly right now because I thought that if I made this absolute, the row would be on top. No, it's... Friends, I'm silly. I'm sorry. Of course. It's relative to its container. Yeah, my bad. I'm sorry that I was unclear there. So, Z index is 2. Make it -1. Remove this manual Z index here. Why is it not disappearing behind anymore? Ah. Oh yeah, I forgot to. Cool. So I'm moving. Why is it no longer behind? You should be behind. Oh, hold on. Sorry, static. Right? Oh my goodness. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I am probably... Why are you set index of 1 when you should be -1? I'm about to feel really silly. Maybe it just needs to be refreshed. -10. Why is it? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I wrote that in the edit in the dev tools. It doesn't get reset automatically. Oh my goodness. Friends, I'm so sorry. Let me start that. That's why I wasn't behind. Cool. So yeah. There we go. Now I feel less silly. So check it out. It's peeking out from behind because the Z index is smaller than that of the row. I hope that's helpful. Oh, Kita's, I wanted to address Kita's question. Why does this work? Position absolute, right, left, top 0, margin auto. Hold on. You had more question than that. I'm so sorry to go so far over time. I'm going to stop in just a minute. But margin auto with no position doesn't add the top and bottom margins. This is because of that vertical reset. You want to see it in action? Let's use our code pen here. So let me remove a bunch of these squares because I don't think we'll need them for just a moment. Bear with me. And we're going to make that inline size smaller. Okay. You did reset, right? Oh, yeah. Cool. Top left, we don't need that anymore because it's static. And do you know what? I'm going to remove this square. No. Don't be... Actually, yeah. Yes, let's do it. So now we just got just the row. It's got a padding so it shows up. But instead of a padding, we're going to give it a height and a width of 100 pixels. And that's it. Position static. I'm going to leave position static for a minute. Yeah. Remember that that's the default. So there it is. Now, if we wanted to center this, we could use margin auto. We know this. However, it's only going to apply the horizontal margin. This is because of that vertical collapse. If we set this position to absolute, now we're not doing anything. So we need to apply top 0, bottom 0. Now, because we said, hey, you need to be at the top and the bottom at the same time, it's like, okay, I guess I'll be in the middle then. Let me see what happens. Let's see what happens when I remove that margin, though. Now, because there's no top and bottom margin, and this is that margin collapse I was telling you about before. Because there's no top and bottom margin, it just puts it at the top. If I ever want to vertically center something like this, I would nowadays prefer to use a flex box. There we go. Folks, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but that was a lot. But I appreciate y'all sticking around. Remember, this is all recorded. Go on CodePen, play around, send me pictures of your cat drawings, please. Yeah. Let's call it a day, shall we? One more time. Homework. Where's my homework? Homework is to do the rest of this. Tomorrow we'll start with the piano. Namikura says I miss the cats. Don't worry. You will see them soon. People are going to be posting them in Discord. It's going to be wonderful. Great to see you, Namikuro. Yeah, let's call it. I don't know about the rest of y'all. I'm exhausted. Let's take it easy. Thank you all so much for joining, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.